this is our first think tank of the day, so we're excited to kick it off. And it's all about brand stewards, creating an omni-channel experience for HCPs and patients. We are starting off with a bang, and this is a dynamite group of individuals and thought leaders program. I'd like to introduce our panelists first and foremost. And it's Dave Ormesher, who is a Red Jacket Award honoree, and he has taken the digital marketing agency closerlook from a small creative media boutique and grown it into a recognized leader in creating technology-based relationship marketing solutions, helping pharmaceutical brands build meaningful relationships with healthcare providers. Next is Ryan Billings. He's a 2020 PharmaVOICE 100, who is a leader in the healthcare space with deep expertise in enterprise digital transformation and strategy, innovation, solution development and scale, digital health, social strategy, content marketing, brand communications, analytics, and mobile solutions. And Mario Nacinovich, a 2001 and 2005 PharmaVOICE 100, who is responsible for developing and implementing marketing strategies for Eyevance's innovative and impactful ophthalmic therapies for the ocular surface and anterior segment, and leading the marketing team. So for more information about our panelists, I do encourage you to go to pharmavoice100.com. So Dave, this panel is really about finding ways to create a platform to support patients and HCPs, which is more important than ever for brand managers. With many reps still restricted from making office visits, brand managers need to create alternative journeys to promote the company as well as individual brands. So why don't you tell us why this topic is so near and dear to you and kick off this discussion?
Excellent. First of all, thank you, Taren, and congratulations to you and the team at PharmaVOICE for your inspiration for this crazy show that you're putting on, for getting us up this early. And congratulations, Ryan, on your naming as a new member of PharmaVOICE 100 for 2020.
Thank you. So honored, so happy to be here.
And Mario, you and I go way back.
Absolutely. Way, way back.
Yes, yes. Great to see you too. You know, Taren, we've used the word digital transformation and omni-channel for several years. For many biopharma companies, the idea of transformation always seemed aspirational, but in the past 6 months, nearly every corner of healthcare, including our collective sector in the life sciences, has seen really fundamental change, even transformational change. COVID-19 has been an accelerant of many changes that were, at least from our perspective, already underway, albeit slowly. And this is where I play. This is where closerlook plays. As a digital native agency, we think in terms really of two secrets for delivering value. Using advanced analytics, we know how to find new customers, and using insight, we know how to create relevance and inspire engagement that leads to growth. And increasingly, I think those two things are more and more important, particularly in this era. Since COVID, this overarching strategy really hasn't changed, but the omni-channel experience certainly has evolved as the HCP experience and the patient journeys have changed. How physicians consume clinical and product content, and how they make therapy choices is certainly less rep-driven. And the role patients are playing in managing their own healthcare is becoming more self-service. So from our perspective, it's a challenging time, but it's an exciting time to be working with biopharma brand teams and omni-channel centers of excellence to reimagine how they serve their customers. And I'm really excited to be speaking with Ryan Billings from GSK and Mario Nacinovich from Eyevance.
Yeah, this is
two real experts in this space.
Event that we have our panel in. It started at midnight.
Hi, can I just ask everybody who's just popped on, if you have your audio on, can you please put yourselves on mute? Sorry, Dave.
Thank you. So first of all, let's just jump in. I'm curious how the conversation about digital marketing and the omnichannel experience has changed in your organization over the past 6 months. Ryan, how has the conversation evolved within the oncology franchise at GSK?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, but it's been a wild ride over the past 6+ months, as you can imagine. I feel like I went from, being just someone kind of running the digital group to now being extremely important. In fact, I've hired 2 more people over that time. But I would say at the macro level at GSK, honestly, at first, it was a bit of a scramble figuring out what do we do, I assume, just like many organizations. But then it was almost transformation overnight. And honestly, COVID became our Trojan horse for some of these initiatives that we had been trying to push through MLR and through the organization for many years, things like food delivery to doctors' offices. So we really have been using this time as a way to push the envelope a little bit. And then I would say, in terms of oncology, it's a really interesting place to be. We've really looked at this time as accelerating our journey towards an omni-channel function, because we knew in oncology that we were going to be losing rep access more and more, and that our HCPs, our oncologists, were becoming more and more digital, more and more mobile first, and we were already anticipating that. So the theme has really been acceleration towards that true omni-channel strategy and functionality. But we did not foresee it happening so fast. So it's been really, really exciting. We're putting a lot of really cool stuff in place. But again, it's just been a whirlwind.
Yeah, I can imagine. Mario, what about at Eyevance? What's been your experience?
So it's just been a few short weeks here at Eyevance, but I can say what has impressed me most is really how the organization has responded and has been really proactive about ensuring that customer-centric mindset throughout the organization. It's not just a top-down approach, it's a bottom-up approach, and really trying to gain a complete 360 view of everyone, trying to understand both customer intent and actual behaviors. And for Eyevance, it's a really unique situation because we have a team that is focused on not only at the promotion of ethical pharmaceuticals, but we also have an over-the-counter product. So really trying to continuously evaluate a lot of those cross-channel journeys is critically important. But whether it's the HCP, the HCP, or it's the consumer, I think you've got to dedicate yourself to increasing customer satisfaction as the distance is growing between us and seeing the customer by providing that hyper-personalization. So it's really about that personalized engagement. And in a few short weeks, both on the field ride-alongs that I've been on, as well as evaluating the strategies that we have had in place, as well as planning for 2021, I can tell you, I think it's all about personalized engagement.
So Mario, let's push on that a little bit, because you've been an old hand in marketing for a long time across a number of organizations. And I think it's got to be kind of interesting and exciting to be jumping into the fray here in the middle of COVID at Eyevance. From your perspective, what are some of the keys to creating a successful omni-channel experience, and what are you hoping to bring to Eyevance?
No, I draw a lot of parallels to what we're seeing both on the university level as well as in major athletics today. You know, it's a data-driven approach using analytics and insights. It's no longer someone there with a lot of experience like us who's just making gut decisions. We've had to mobilize, we've had to have the data inform our decisions. And in some cases, if you have a hunch, ensure that the data can back that up. I think in terms of omnichannel design and development, that is really what we're focusing on right now. But in doing so, it's not just for the moment. It's not just for what's happening in the next quarter. It's looking a little bit further out and building what is a truly sustainable and comprehensive customer-centric experience and engagement. I think that's going to be critical when we think about successful omnichannel experience 5 years from now and look back, especially during this unprecedented time. It's how did we do extremely well adjusting to what the customer's needs were and being nimble and adaptive in that process.
Very interesting. Ryan, at GSK, I mean, a lot's happened in the last 6 months, and I'm sure it's been exciting to see the spotlight now on you and your group instead of just being kind of a tangential, nice to have. But getting an organization aligned like this, making appropriate technology and data investments, learning how to launch customized omnichannel campaigns, that's a tall order for any franchise. How would you advise a brand team or a center of excellence to stage these efforts? I mean, where do you start? Are you in the middle? How fast can we move to implement a true omnichannel organization?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, take a step back and take a deep breath. Don't try to do everything. I think getting to that true North Star of that perfect omni-channel, function is it's always going to be a moving target. So most importantly, I would say ask your customers what do they want, what kind of content and experiences do they want. I often talk about designing with your customers, not at them, and that's so true, especially now. So just always listen and observe, as well as asking. So look at what's happening on channels. Like over the past few months, we've seen over 50% increase in activity among HCPs on Twitter. So that's really meaningful, and that means that we need to be meeting our customers there. And then lean on your agency and your cross-functional partners. That's what they're there for. Insights and analytics, media and creative partners, they are those experts. And as a COE or a brand team, you can't know everything, and that's what those folks are there for. So I would also just say bring everyone along. For instance, reps, their jobs look very different right now. They probably will for the foreseeable future. So help them understand things like next best action, next best experience, what are triggers and why are they actually going to help them. So at the end of the day, again, focus on a few key things and know that you're never going to be perfect, but as long as you're always striving towards that omni-channel function, that you're in a good spot.
Mari, I'm kind of curious. I know you're relatively new at Eyevance, but are you seeing anything interesting in the data or how HCPs or patients are responding differently? How's their experience evolved?
So it's frenetic at best. I think the best way to sum up Ryan's comment, though, is based on our initial conversation. And he said, try not to boil the ocean. So somebody print that and get that up someplace, because that's a sage advice for anyone looking at the omnichannel experience and trying to predict what's going to happen next. But I think Ryan really nailed it. I mean, whether you're the HCP or you're a patient, I think it's really trying to understand their use and their engagement of multiple channels, you know, the where, the why, and the when. And, you know, it even comes down to little things like when I announced to my own parents that I was going to be working with the team at Eyevance. My mom, who has worked for an optometrist for about 25 years, turned around and said, well, wait a second, I use Fresh Coat PF. I'm like, well, where did you order that from? She said, I order it right off the website. We order it for our practice. And you start seeing things that you've never seen before. And I think you see it with a new set of eyes. But really for that HCP or that patient experience, I think it really comes down to being authentic. We use that word quite a bit. It's about being complete. It's about being consistent. It's about being really credible in all that surrounds sound information. And certainly it's overplayed both on the agency side as well as the pharma side. But it goes without saying that the right messaging at the right cadence across the various relevant inflection points on their individual patient journey. So while we like to see if we could generalize a lot of our strategies, this is such a deep level of hyper-personalization that it is down to the individual patient, individual HCP level. Lastly, I think it's identifying those intended and expected outcomes and really trying to match our advanced analytics to ensuring ongoing improvements in that experience. It's what are we going to do next to engage them? Again, having a pharmaceutical portfolio as well as an over-the-counter product makes for a unique situation for us here at Eyevance, but we have the framework of a great analytics team to be able to give us those analytics, some of those insights, and dig a lot deeper to gain those insights as to what we should do next to develop that ongoing experience. But it's all on their terms, and the second you start thinking it's about you, that's when you start failing. It's all about the customer.
I think that's good sage advice. As a result, I've been watching how many biopharma life science companies are finally making the kinds of investments, not only in technology, but in personnel. And yet there's still a really important relationship with the larger ecosystem, your agency network, for example. Mario, I'm curious, you've been on both sides on the aisle, on the client side and the agency side. When that partnership works best, especially when it's working to create patient engagement, what does that look like? What have you learned are the most critical strategies for omnichannel success when you're working with your agency partners?
Well, like my relationship with Taren and Mara over the years, like my relationship with you over the years, and certainly with my wife of 22 years, I think it really comes down to being really focused on the other person, on their needs, being unconditional in terms of your approach within the legal bounds, legal, ethically, and morally. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all about trust and building that trust. So whether you're on the client side looking at the agency or on the agency side looking at the client, I think that certainly you need to find the right partner that's a right cultural fit for you that can also keep pace. I think that's the challenge in this day and age. There are high expectations, a lot of opportunities. You need somebody who can be a strategic partner. That's a great term that's quite overused on every agency website. I've certainly used it over the years in abundance. But really what it comes down to is trust. Can you sit across the table from the person who's going to be guiding your account, who's going to be guiding your creative, and are you going to be able to trust them? And are they going to be able to be there for you, not only when we're up on the rise and launching products, but also going to be able to sustain you during those days where we have perhaps a gap in terms of data. Perhaps there's a slowdown, perhaps there's a dip in monthly or quarterly sales. It's somebody who's going to remain there by your side and be a trusted partner.
Mm-hmm. So Ryan, I'd like to pick up on that a little bit, particularly in your expertise in digital and social strategy. As you think about patient engagement and you've got your finger on the pulse, even your piece of data this morning that physicians are 50% up on Twitter. What are best practices, or what would be 3 takeaways for our audience on patient engagement, particularly now in light of how the environmentals have changed?
So I think Mario hit the nail on the head with authenticity. I think that rings true across a lot of areas, especially things like social media and just content strategy. There's so much content right now. People are online and on their phones more than ever. So we want to make sure that our content is authentic and that it's personalized and that it's what customers want. And the only way to deliver that truly is to work with our customers to deliver that content. For instance, we've heard that our oncologists want to hear from each other, so we've rethought peer-to-peer engagement, and we're looking at working with influencers, for instance. It's a much better way to digest information quickly in this digital age. I'd say, secondly, empower your customers, both patients and HCPs. Arm them with the right information so they can ask for products by name, understand the therapeutic areas that we work in, provide, again, the right types of content on the channels they want, the channels that we know now that they are using more than ever, like Twitter, to your point. For one great example is we've heard that customers want on-demand snackable video. So how do we deliver that in our traditional environment? And lastly, data-driven. I know Mario agrees. We need that 360-degree view of our customers. And the only way to get to that is if we have, a very strong backbone of an analytics structure. So again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's something very core to a true omni-channel experience.
So that definition has sort of been the holy grail for all of us for many years. And often when you would look at the various digital maturity models that are floating out there, that was sort of always in the, up and right. But every biopharma company's been on a journey, but lately it seems like everybody's been moving much faster. Sort of the elephants can dance. So maybe as a way to get our Q&A started, I'd like to put up a quick polling question for our audience members on where are you in that journey? How advanced would you describe your organization's omni-channel approach? Would you describe it as best in class, great overall with some room for improvement, getting there, we're trying, we're running fast, or what omni-channel approach?
So far, getting there.
Okay. So as you enter your results in chat, let's open the floor here for any questions from our experts, Ryan or Mario.
Actually, Dave, there was a question that came in, and it was from Mario, if that's okay. As we wait for everybody to log in their questions. Mario, how practical is it to create messaging down to the individual HCP?
I think we have been flush with data ever since I was a rep back in 1994 for Merck. We know, we have seen, it's a little bit of a lagging indicator, but we've seen what some of those trends are. You couple that with a lot of the insights that you're getting from that interpersonal relationship and working and talking to really be able to figure out if you're doing your pre-call planning correctly on the representative level, it can get incredibly hyper-personalized. As an organization, I think we've got the technology to be able to serve up what the HCPs want when they want it. There are certainly predictive analytics on the backbone that we can look at, but I think it's up to us to really dig in if we are doing it right, to really ensure that we understand what they want, when they want it, where they want it, like I mentioned before, and I think we can accomplish it. It takes a lot of work, and certainly you're not trying to boil the ocean, but if you can be targeted in your approach to who you're trying to communicate to, I think you can address their needs and get to that level of personalization that's based on the individual needs.
Excellent. So I think, Dave, as you'll see some of the answers that are coming in, I think everybody's in that same boat that they're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. So it's a slow but steady process.
Yeah.
So,
Although we've got a few here that look like they're leading. We've got Leanne, best in class. I'm curious, what do you feel like you have been doing or are doing now that puts you at the front of the pack? Leanne?
Yes, thank you very much. So from beginning to end, the customer experience using the digital platforms goes beyond vanity analytics, but the customer experience where they begin on all of the digital platforms, just not putting out their brand, but experiencing the brand and having those multiple channel conversations, and they're followed through the entire customer experience. That is multi-channel. You know, HBA has been talking about this, I know,
Forever.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, we've been digital, but to talk about that omni-channel, I think one of the big mistakes that companies are making is not having the conversation, but pushing out digital information. And you have to be on all the platforms to gather that data. And Twitter has been an absolute gold mine of data. Who's using it, who's sharing, what information, let's say, about clinical trials. It has been amazing. And I think that shocks a lot of companies.
That's great. So let's not forget the sales rep in all of this, although I think the digital channels have become extraordinarily important. I'm curious, Ryan or Mario, how are you implementing? I mean, a true omni-channel experience is going to include that personal as well. How do you support the reps in this environment? How do you get data from the rep, data to the reps?
So,
or Ryan.
Sure, I'll start. I think, first of all, it was making sure that we provide a platform for virtual engagement, but we found very quickly that our oncologists, their lives were turned upside down too, so they weren't necessarily always available or willing to take a virtual one-to-one. So what we've done is just things like a rep chat, things like making it easy to find who your rep is so you can contact them, looking into things like SMS with a rep, and more importantly, providing that kind of surround sound and amplification and support for reps by providing extra content like on-demand videos and things like that, so that they're still getting the information, maybe not just always in that one-to-one setting.
I think there's an added bonus to today, and while we do have challenges with regards to access thanks to COVID, I think that to really be focused on the customer, you need to be in front of the customer. And throughout this entire endeavor, the team at Eyevance has been in front of the customer on the customer's terms. And certainly it's a tremendous effort by the team to get out there, to make those appointments, to be in front of the customer. But then I think it's up to the marketers as well. So I've spent actually the last several days with our team up here in the Northeast. I'm actually going to be in Connecticut later today, and then heading down to the New Haven area as well. I think it really has to be a marketer that isn't just looking at the analytics, isn't just looking at those insights, but is being part of that customer experience. That's really being there firsthand on the ground, experiencing it beyond the ad boards, beyond the focus groups. If you're going to be a customer-centric marketer, you really need to be with the customers as well. And sometimes those customers are your internal customers. In the case of the representatives, I think it is really listening to them. We have committees and teams that we've put together, both on the strategy side and on the tactical side across our organization, to ensure that we are listening to the impact that they have. And, there is the great messaging opportunity through the social media tools and certainly through social listening, but there's nothing like that firsthand eyewitness real-time experience that we're getting as marketers in front of the customer, or that we're leveraging with regards to the representatives. They have an incredible line of sight into what's going on literally on the ground, and we need to listen to them as well.
Mario, I think this is a really good insight, and it brings us back really full circle. It's very easy to get caught up in technology and metrics and analytics and lose sight of the customer. And I think particularly as leaders in technology and leaders in digital omnichannel for our firms, the more we can stay focused on the customer, the more we can stay focused on the language around the customer, the more we're going to be able to build allies within our organizations, because certainly they understand it. Certainly sales ops, Salesforce, they understand that importance of the customer relationship. And so the more we integrate that with all of our messages around omnichannel, I think the more successful we're going to get, because it's a cultural change. It's an organizational change that we need.
Agree. We had two comments in the chat that I want to highlight. I think Ritesh Patel, a good friend from Ogilvy, has added a pretty interesting pearl here, and I'd love to just offer it up to everyone, and maybe we can comment on it.
Well, so Mario, I hate to cut you off, and I apologize, but we are close to that half-hour mark, and I'm going to have to. But I would encourage everybody to stay involved in the conversation, and you can follow each other on Twitter, because all of your handles, their handles are on our website.
For more PharmaVoice 100 content, visit www.pharmavoice100.com.